Hi there, ladies. Good afternoon. It is Sarah Shipton here from Scrapbooking with Sarah, and I'm coming live to you today on Tuesday, July 30 for our Technique Tuesday class. And I am so excited to share this week's tips with you and the techniques that I have used to create this week's scrapbooking challenge. Now, I am going to be talking today about using card making stamp sets on your scrapbooking layouts. And I'm also going to be doing a little bit of a 101 on stamping using Stampin' Up! Stamps and inks, and what my experience has been like transitioning over from Close to My Heart over to Stampin' Up! And using Stampin' Up's stamps and ink pads. So I'm excited to share that with you today. So it is going to be like a little bit of a stamping for beginners class, if you want, as well as sharing the tips and techniques with you and what I have found to be my experience as I've transitioned over and used the differentiating products. So I hope you find today's class super helpful for you. There is Miss Trudy. Hi, Trudy. How are you? I hope you've recovered after our scrapbooking retreat weekend. And great timing that you've popped on, because the scrapbooking layout that I'm sharing with you all today, ladies, was actually a layout that I gave my VIP customers for attending my scrapbooking weekend retreat. So I have been teaching scrapbooking for 22 years. And for the last, I want to say like 15 years, I've been running scrapbooking weekend retreats. I've been doing these annually, and we have a lovely group of ladies that come away for the weekend. We spend 2 nights away together in the foothills of Adelaide. And when my customers come along to the scrapbooking retreat weekend, I give them a kit where all of their supplies are pre-cut, and they get to create a scrapbooking layout and also 2 cards. And I have the cards here to share with you as well. Where have I put them? I literally had them right here. Oh, here they are, ready to share with you all. So they made a birthday card, and they also made a thank you card. And so I had lots of fun prepping their kits. There is Miss Kayla. Hi, Kayla. Kayla was also at our VIP scrapbooking retreat weekend. So the girls created this scrapbooking layout, and they created 2 cards as well. So I am going to share some tips with you on both my scrapbooking layout and also my cards. And you might note that the stamp set that I have used on the cards is also the same stamp set that I've used on this scrapbooking layout. Now, I was also super excited to play with new Stampin' Up! Products. So as many of you know, I've been transitioning over from Close to My Heart to Stampin' Up! And I have been introducing my customers, audience, and scrapbooking community to the Stampin' Up! Products. But as we are still transitioning over, we are also using Close to My Heart products as well. So we've had some for May and June, and we had our last Close to My Heart product release in July, and they are our products for July and August. So this is it, girls. And you can see this beautiful floral embellishment cluster that I have used here at the top is actually Close to My Heart product. This is from the Secret Garden scrapbooking workshop kit, and the papers I've used though are the beautiful Stampin' Up! Cardstock. It's much thicker than the Close to My Heart cardstock, so I've used some of those colors there, and also I have used Stampin' Up! Cardstock and pattern papers here. They call it designer series paper, so I've used the designer series paper on my scrapbook layer also. So what I've been doing is really showing my customers, audience, and community how they can merge the 2 range of products together and still create beautiful artwork. So let's get straight into it. This week's scrapbooking challenge is pattern number 11, which is on pages 26 and 27 from the Make It From Your Heart Volume 6 book. This is a close to my heart how-to pattern guide. We've been working along with each of these patterns, and in fact, if my customer Sue Robinson comes on today, she will tell you I think we're up to 58 weeks worth of weekly scrapbooking challenges. And a little bit of backstory, how that started is I actually took 6 weeks off of my business last year. For my husband's 50th birthday, we traveled to the UK and Europe, and I took 6 weeks off. And what I did before I left was I scheduled a whole heap of social media posts for my scrapbooking group on Facebook. It's called Scrapbooking with Sarah Shipton. And I scheduled 6 weeks worth of challenges for my customers so they could keep scrapbooking while I was away. Because I do teach in person. I run monthly workshops where my customers can come along and create their scrapbooking layouts at. And so I knew that being away for 6 weeks, my girls were really going to miss out on that interaction. And I wanted to help them to stay inspired and be creative in my absence. So I created 6 weeks worth of challenges. And they loved them so much. They were like, you cannot stop this. Like, you have to keep going. I did have a little bit of a break just to kind of get back into the swing of things. But we are up to, it might be now like 58 or 59 challenges. So every week on a Monday, I post a scrapbooking challenge for the week. On Tuesday, I go live in my Facebook group. It is a closed group for my customers and for my team. If you do not currently have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator looking after you and you are not a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator yourself and would like to join my scrapbooking group, you can find me on Facebook, Scrapbooking with Sarah Shipton. I then figured out that I could, after I uploaded these videos live to my group, I found out that I could download the video, and then I revived my YouTube channel, which I started in 2009, and I hadn't done anything with, I will admit, embarrassingly so. And I decided to upload all of the weekly lives that I had been doing in my Facebook group to my YouTube channel. And then I've made those videos are public. So anyone can go onto that YouTube channel, Scrapbooking with Sarah, and you can find the weekly Technique Tuesday classes that I'm running for my customers. So thanks so much for being here and joining in. And I hope that you are inspired to create a weekly scrapbook layout as well. And one of the things that I tell my girls is that if you were to do one scrapbook layout a week, you would have 1.5 albums completed. I know that some of my girls do more than that, but you literally could complete an album a year. And if that was the only album you did for the year, 1 week where you printed a couple of photos of what was happening in your life, in your family's life, you would have a year in review at the end of the year. One scrapbook layout, I'm talking maybe 2 hours of your time a week to be crafty, to be creative, to take some time out for you doing something that you love. So that's how the weekly scrapbooking challenges all came about. Now we are doing pattern number 11. It's a double page spread. And you might notice that this pattern has only got 2 photos, a very large 5x7 inch photo, and then one 4x6 inch portrait photo on the right hand page. And what I decided to do, I kept the pattern as is in terms of where the designer series paper and the cardstock went. But as many of you know, I am a bit of a fan of getting more photos on the page. And so what I did was cut down a sheet of white daisy cardstock to allow for the 4x6 inch photo here. But I also had enough paper to add 2 4x4 inch photos here and then 3 3x4 inch photos along there. And I actually am going to demonstrate that to you today on how to cut that down. I'm going to do that live with you girls today, and I'm going to need a sheet of cardstock to do that. So just give me 2 seconds while I go and grab that. Okie dokie. Alrighty, so just running through the pattern here. Now, I also taught my girls on the weekend how to save their paper. So this cutting diagram here has got 2 sheets of pattern paper that actually run behind this square piece of cardstock. And these are cut at 9 by 12 inches. And what I did with my customers to help them to salvage their paper, we actually cut these at 1-inch strips. So I had to do a little bit of math to work out the 12-inch space down through the middle here. So each of these 4 bits of pattern paper at the top are cut at 1 inch by 9 inch. So instead of having that paper running all the way underneath this square bit of paper, because you're literally covering all that up, right? This bit here is 9 inches and then the square bit is 10 inches. So rather than waste all of your beautiful pattern paper, you can cut your paper at 9 inch and then you want 4 pieces at 1 inch. Now, in terms of the squares, you've got 2 square pieces of paper here. So you want these 2 papers to match, and then you want these 2 papers to match as well. So I've used pattern paper for those cuts there, and then I've used cardstock through the middle here. Now, this sheet of cardstock, I did cut this square piece of cardstock at 10 by 10, because you see the cardstock either side here of your photos. But on the left-hand side of the layout, you actually don't see the cardstock that runs underneath this width of paper here. So again, instead of wasting another sheet of cardstock and cutting that down 10 by 10, I've actually cut 2 separate pieces of card, but I've made sure that these 2 pieces match this square piece here. Now, I've cut it still at 10 inches in length, but one piece is at 2.5 inches wide and the other piece is at 2 inches wide, okay? And then through the middle here, we have got a piece of cardstock through the middle here and another piece of cardstock running down the right-hand side. That is just one piece of paper, so you could use cardstock or a piece of pattern paper. You can cut 2 pieces of paper here, and they're both at 5.5 inches in width. One is 10 3/4 in length, and the other one is 8 3/4 in length. And that has enabled me to get a length of cardstock down through here, and then a length of cardstock down through here. And rather than have just the one photo on each page, I have actually run my portrait photos through the middle piece of that cardstock. I've kept the 4 by 6 inch photo where it needs to be, but then I've also replaced this. Now, this particular layout would be great if you've got a really big story that you want to tell about particular photos, okay? So there is certainly a time and a place for this much storytelling with your journaling, 100%. In this particular instance, instead of using this piece of cardstock as my journaling space, I've replaced it with 2 4 by 4 inch photos. And in fact, what I might do is grab out my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer now and give you guys a quick cutting class, quick cutting tips on how to cut your one sheet of cardstock down and get all of those photo mats out. So I'm going to extend my arm here. I've got a sheet of White Daisy cardstock, and I'm going to make my first cut at 4 1/4 inches. So I'm lining that up. This has got inches and metric, but I'm going to make my first cut at 4 1/4 inches. So I'll slide the blade through like so. I actually have just ordered some replacement blades for my trimmer. I'm then going to turn that on the side and make the second cut at 6 1/4 inches. And then I'm going to make another cut at 4 1/4 inches, okay? And then I've already now got 2 photo mats here, and I've got this piece of White Daisy cardstock left over. Now, what you could do with that leftover piece, that could then become your journaling space here, okay? Or you could cut it down into 1/4 inch strips. That would look great being your journaling space there. I've then got this piece of cardstock left over, and I'm going to do another cut at 4 1/4 inches. And then I'm going to do another cut at 4 1/4 inches. And now I've got my 2 square photo mats and my portrait photo mat. And then I'm going to do a cut at 3 1/4 and another cut at 3 1/4. Oh, and I've got 2 of my portrait ones there. You've got a little bit of leftover cardstock here. And then I'm going to cut this at 3 1/4 inches. So you'll end up with a 1/4 of an inch strip of paper, which is where I've trimmed this down here to create my journaling strips. And then I'm going to turn this one on the side and cut this at 4 1/4 inches. So what I've got now are all my photo mats that I need for this layout. I've got this little bit of paper left over here, so I would do another cut at 4 1/4 and then another cut at 3 1/4. This blade is really blunt. I've just had my scrapbooking retreat weekend and did lots of scrapbooking, cutting. So I'm very, very eager for those new blades to arrive. Right, so 1 sheet of cardstock. I've got a 4 by 6 inch photo mat. I've got photo mats for 2 4 by 4 inch photos. And then I've got my 3 photo mats for my 3 by 4 inch photos. I've actually been able to cut another photo mat and then another photo mat. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can get 8 photo mats out of 1 12 by 12 inch sheet of cardstock. So I'm going to pop all those to the side. I hope that was helpful for you. Quite often when I'm cutting my cardstock for my photo mats, I just cut it all up then and there, so I'm not actually wasting any. I do keep a bag of scraps that I keep all my White Daisy cardstock in, and this is helpful for stamping and die cutting, so I will use my scraps for that, or I will trim my White Daisy cardstock up and I use this for journaling boxes or journaling strips. Okay, so that's just a quick tip on how to get your photo mats for this particular size layout, because in this week's scrapbooking pattern, you're only going to need 1 sheet of paper or cardstock to cut your photo mats down, but it's got them as larger mats because you're only 1 photo. So you're actually still just using that sheet, but I've just shown you how to cut that down to be able to get all of the photo mats out of that 1 sheet of paper that you need to be able to do this particular layout. Okay, so that is all my tips for the layout in terms of paper and cardstock and how to get the right measurements out of that. Then in terms of aligning it, I've literally just started with the 1 photo in the middle and I've eyeballed it. I don't get too particular with getting my ruler out and measuring it, to be honest. I do work with, I still am working with my 12 by 12 inch Close to My Heart Versamat, because Stampin' Up does not have a comparable product for that. So I do love my 12 by 12 inch scrapbooking mat, because you can see I've got the measurements that are running along the top and bottom and the sides of my 12 by 12 inch scrapbook layout. So I typically will eyeball it. This one I've put right in the middle, aligning that with the 6, and then making sure I've got even space on both sides of my cardstock here. And then I've just popped the other 2 photos either side of it. Again, just eyeballing the space between those photos and the edges here. I don't get too fussy with my ruler. In terms of this side of the layout, I did put the 4 by 6 inch photo where it said to with the instructions, which was 1 3/4 of an inch down. And then when it came time to place my 2 4 by 4 inch photos on here, again, I've started with an even border here, which I eyeballed for this photo mat. And then I have allowed a little bit of space between there. It's meant that this photo mat has hung down over the bottom a little bit onto this cardstock, but it's actually not that obvious. And in fact, I was about to tell you that I lined them up within the green, and when I pulled my layout up, I realized that this was actually down. So I hadn't even noticed or realized that until I had gone to show that to you. So I hope those tips help you in terms of your photo placement. I just really love this layout. And my photos that I've used this week are from a very special birthday dinner. My daughter's partner, Ethan, we call him EJ, turned 30 last year, and my daughter organised a beautiful holiday for us to spend some time together in Bali to celebrate EJ's 30th. He didn't want a birthday present from us, so Darren and I said, right, well, we're going to take you out for a really nice dinner. He loves steak, and in Seminyak in Bali, there's this beautiful meat boutique, a real fine dining restaurant, a beautiful dining experience called Boy and Cow. And so we booked a table, and it was our shout for dinner, and that was his beautiful 30th birthday present. We had a lovely bottle of red wine. We had all of the sides, and the staff did a very special birthday song and plate with cake for him. So the whole restaurant got to sing him happy birthday, which he absolutely loved. So as you can see here, it is a male celebration. It is a male themed, I guess photos, but I've used this beautiful blue, green and moody mauve paper to capture the photos. So we've got a little bit of the pink in Kayla's flower. We've got the green and the navy blue in our outfits, and this beautiful rustic exposed brick with the natural colours there just really helps to lift it. So, I give you permission not to get too hung up in, using floral photos for masculine pages. It doesn't have to be boy themed. I actually showed EJ this layout yesterday and he loved it. And is captured. A beautiful 30th birthday dinner is now captured, and those photos are in my album forever. So super, super special. Okay, so let's talk now about doing the stamping for the titles. So because I've got such a large embellishment cluster here on my layout, I was actually initially thinking about cutting a big title with some of my alphabet dies through here. And in fact, the reason why I've ended up putting a title here is I spilt some of my glue on my layout from my fine tip glue pen, which I was using to stick some of these embellishments down. I spilled it on here, and when I went to wipe it, it actually took the layer of my cardstock off. So I'm like, I've got to find something to cover this now. So sometimes our little oopsies and our mistakes can actually end up being part of the creative process, right? So I was like, okay, what can I use here? I had used the stamp set, Simply Said. This is one of Stampin' Up's photopolymer stamp sets, and I had used the stamp set to create these cards for my customers, so they got to use the stamp set at my scrapbooking retreat on the weekend. So this particular stamp set is actually a card making stamp set, and it's called Simply Said because these are probably the most popular sentiments that you would put onto a card, and they feature on page 19 of the catalogue. Simply Said has got a couple of different, quite a few different sentiments on there, and they actually coordinate with our quick and easy card making options. So I was really enjoying creating with this stamp set, and I wanted to show you today how I've been able to use this on my scrapbooking layout. So one of the things I am missing is the how-to patterns. I do rely a lot on how-to patterns. Here's some other stamped images that I've already got here. It's very rare that I create from scratch. I don't make my own guides. It's just not my jam. I love using how-to patterns. I love using scrapbooking workshop guides. Same with the card making. I've been used to that for many, many years, using patterns and guides. And so to create something from scratch and having to work out the measurements myself does my head in a little bit. There are some beautiful samples here in the catalogue to help you to spark your creativity. You can copy any of these card templates below. I think just for so long, because I've got used to working with measurements, I really have become quite reliant on those. And so my customers have as well, because that's how we have been taught to scrapbook, right? So I'm just taking my photopolymer stamp off the carrier sheet, and I'm putting it over the top of my stamping block. Now, I had invested obviously in stamping blocks with Close to My Heart. I'm going to go through after I show the stamping and show you where all of those different products are in the core catalogue. One product I have invested in since transitioning to Stampin' Up! Is the Stampin' Pierce mat. I am absolutely obsessed with this. This is a very hard base for stamping, and I have found that the difference between the ink pads, the Close to My Heart ink pads are a felt ink pad, and I'm going to demonstrate this. They're very hard, okay? And you'll see what I mean when I go to stamp that. The Close to My Heart, the Stampin' Up! Stampin' pads, they're still a water-based dye ink, okay, but they are a foam ink pad. And so the ink itself, as you can see here, this looks quite hard, and I know it looks dry, but it's not. This being foam, it's really, the word they actually use is juicy, and I keep saying juicy to my customers, and they're laughing at me all the time. I'm like, they actually say juicy. It's very wet, and almost tacky when you stamp into it, okay? And so you don't need to apply a lot of pressure. And because the ink is so wet, I have found that inking on the Stampin' Pierce mat compared to my Close to My Heart Versamat, which I have used for the last 11 years. It's a Versamat because you've got your measurements on one side for your scrapbooking, and then you've got your foam base on the back. So this is a really hard base. This is not as hard. And the back of this Versamat is actually meant to replicate the foam square that came with the stamps. When you purchase a Close to My Heart stamp set, you actually get a foam square in here. And so you can stamp on the foam square, or you can stamp onto the back of your Versamat. So it has been a little bit of trial and error as I've played around with the inks and the stamps and just gotten used to the different product, but I am really enjoying it, and I'm loving the Stampin' Pierce mat. So when it came time though to stamp my sentiments for both the cards and also the scrapbooking layout, I had a template. I had an old template that I used from a card making guide that I had, and the template didn't have this size white daisy cardstock on it. It actually had a larger template over the top, and some of you might even recognize this template if you have followed me for a little while, or were familiar with the Close to My Heart card making templates. And so I wanted to use the birthday and the thank you stamp set, but I needed to change my cutting dimensions for my stamp. So what I did was I got my Close to My Heart Versamat out. I put my stamp on the block, and because it's got a clear face, I was able to just pop that on my Versamat and figure out the dimensions that I was going to need to cut my paper at. And I figured out that I would cut this at 1 1/4 wide it was 1 1/4 wide by 2 inches in length. So I pre-cut all of those white bits of card so then I could stamp on them. And of course I had them here ready. Oh, here we go. So 1 1/2, sorry. So 2 1/4 by 1 1/2. So I just eyeballed that on my Versamat, and I thought if I stamp this right in the middle, then that's going to give me a nice edge around the outside there. And I went through and I did that with all of the stamp sets, in the set that I wanted to use, just to figure out how long I wanted my paper to be able to fit both sentiments. You can see here if I switch that out with happy birthday or let's celebrate, I've used the thank you there. I've cut the thinking of you down as well. And in this instance, I just offset my stamp so then I could wrap some of the coordinating in colour jute trim around. So these two colours, Moody Mauve and Wild Wheat went with this particular paper collection. And the other 3 colours go with another paper collection that you're going to see me create with in time. There is so much I want to create with, right? But I am taking my time and I'm being patient because I don't want to overwhelm you with all of the things all at once, right? So I'm going to pop my White Daisy cardstock on here, and I've got my Moody Mauve Stampin' Pad here, good to go. So when you are using your Stampin' Pads, I've noted that you really just need to very lightly kiss, they use the word kiss the ink pad to ink that up. With the Close to My Heart ones, we were used to a tap, tap, twist, twist. You will not need to do that. So you're just lightly inking that pad up, inking that stamp up, sorry, and then you're going to apply pressure onto your cardstock. And I'm loving this Stamping Pierce mat. The firmness of it, I think, just makes such a difference when you are transferring the ink onto that cardstock. Now, I want to demonstrate the comparison of doing that with the Close to My Heart ink pads. And in fact, I'm going to use the Just a Note stamp here. And I need another block. Let me take this one off and I'll clean that after, because I want to demonstrate the cleaning products to you as well. So I've got Just a Note here. Beck has joined us. Hi, Beck. Thanks for watching today. So as I mentioned before, we've got a foam ink pad here, all inked up, and we have a felt ink pad here. And you will note the difference. You can even just hear that, okay? It's quite hard. I'm just going to, this is the first time I've used it, so I'm just conditioning that up really well. So twisting and finishing with a tap. We used to go tap, tap, twist, twist. And then I'm just going to apply pressure here. I'm going to stamp that down the bottom, and then I'm going to wrap some of the jute trim around the top of that, and I've got a sentiment there for another card. So that's the comparison between the two. I'm actually going to stamp that stamp now on the foam square just to show you, because the ink formulation is, the ink pads are different. I'm just going to see if that is different here. I've got some ink on there. We're just going to do this like a scratch bit of paper. It's much softer. It actually goes right into it. Okay, so that's just the difference between the two ink pads. There's 2 stamp pads, I should say, sorry. Now, I want to do the cleaning. So if you haven't added this Stamping Pierce mat to your wish list, you are definitely going to want to do that, okay? So what I did here, oh no, I've got ink on my fingers and I've got it on my White Daisy cardstock. See, it happens to me too, girls. So what I did here, I mentioned before, I measured that out, and I've just stuck my title on with some 3D foam tape. I put the Let's Celebrate up the top here, and then the birthday wishes here. I'm going to have to stick some little embellishments over the top of that to cover that ink up. And that's how I decided to do my title here for my scrapbook layout. Because I had such a heavy embellishment here, I actually decided it looked better with the smaller title and not another really big title there. So that is my scrapbook layout for the week. Now, I just want to quickly show you the cleaning, because I have invested in the Stampin' Scrub with Close to My Heart, and I'm loving it. When I started with Stampin' Up. Oh my gosh, girls, can you see? I'm still trying to get used to it all, right? When I started with Close to My Heart 11 years ago, we had a Stampin' Scrubber and we had a spritzer. And then we moved to like a stamp chamois. And now we are back to a scrubber and a mister. I do actually prefer this for cleaning my stamps. I'm not going to lie. And this stamping mist just smells amazing. So with your Stampin' Scrub, you've got rubber feet. So when it's on my workspace here, it doesn't move around while I'm cleaning my stamps. And in the corners of your Stampin' Scrub, there's a little cutout piece here, which has got water drop icon in there and a sunshine icon in there, much like your air conditioning units at home. So this side we are going to wet, and this side, excuse me, this side we are going to keep dry. So I'm just going to lightly spritz my Stampin' Scrub up. I am going to put that straight into the scrubber to clean that off. So that's going to get any ink off. If you apply too much pressure into your ink pads, I'll give you an example. If I was to push it in like there, which you do not need to do, you end up with all this ink right around the outside of your block, okay? So that is why you only just need to very lightly kiss your ink pad to just get that ink on there. So we've cleaned that off the wet side, and then I'm just going over that on the dry side, and then I can take my stamp off my block and I can pop that back onto my carrier sheet. And this one here, I didn't clean the birthday wishes one before, so let's give that a quick clean. So I pop that back onto my block to clean it, and then I can dry that off there. So I have really enjoyed actually using this. I had a stamp chamois before, and it was done. It was getting all manky and bits of blue were falling off it. I did try the Stampin' Up! Stamp chamois. I just prefer this. I don't know. I gave both a try, and this was just my preferred method of cleaning. So it really is just a personal choice. There is no right or wrong. It's whatever you prefer. So I do give you permission to do what works best for you. I'm going to move those out of the way. I hope those stamping tips were helpful for you, especially for those of you that are transitioning across from Close to My Heart with me over to Stampin' Up! And we are having all of the fun, girls, let me tell you. So just to wrap up with the products that I have used from my scrapbooking challenge, and also the cards I gave my customers at retreat, I have used the Wildly Flowering Sweet Collection on my scrapbooking layout. So I've used the Designer Series paper. I've coordinated the cardstock colours up. So there are 6 different cardstock colours that coordinate. Now, one thing that Stampin' Up! Don't do, and I really hope that they change in the future, is that with Close to My Heart, you could buy a patterned packet of paper, and then you could also buy the coordinating cardstock that went with that pattern paper as well. So unfortunately, that is not something that you can buy together like this. This is just the color palette, for want of a better word. And so the colors that coordinate, you've got 6 colors here. They are in the back of your catalog, and they are in color collections, and they're together as families. So what I had to do was have a look at what colors they'd used here. So Wild Wheat and Moody Mauve were actually from the 2023 to 2025 in colors, and that's why I bought the coordinating packet of jute trim to embellish. And then the other colors, which were Mossy Meadow, Misty Moonlight, Early Espresso, and Crumb Cake, they are all from the Neutrals packet. So when you buy an assortment packet of cardstock, you will get 2 sheets of those 10 colours. There's 20 sheets in the cardstock pack, so this is 5 colours. I got 4 sheets of each of those colours. You can order the cardstock individually in colours. However, it is an A4 size. It is not in 12 by 12 inch side, which I know a lot of you are used to as scrapbookers. So you do have to buy the assortment pack just to get 2 sheets of the colour that you need. So it's definitely something that we have suggested to our Stampin' Up! Friends, and hopefully we might be able to get those 12 by 12 inch cardstock colours as separate colours. It would be so beneficial for our scrapbookers for sure. The A4 size of cardstock is more suited, obviously, for card making. In terms of the other products, that I have used on my scrapbook layout, I have also added the adhesive textured back dots, which I've used to embellish. And then, of course, in terms of the stamps and the thin cuts, they are from the Secret Garden collection. So the Secret Garden stamp and thin cuts for scrapbooking, and then the Secret Garden thin cuts that just came as a set on their own. Now, you do need to have been either a VIP or online customer or ex-maker with Close to My Heart with a valid email address to get access to this product. If you were none of the above, please contact me directly if you would like to order these products, because I can order the stamp and thin cuts for you, and also the thin cuts also, okay? And I can have them shipped anywhere within Australia as well for you, okay? So that was a combination of mixing those products together, using the Moody Mauve ink pad, and I did use some old Close to My Heart colours in Pine and Bluebell to coordinate that, because I am still slowly building up my Stampin' Up supplies. So the Wildly Flowering Sweet collection was so fun to play with. And then I had a post-it note here for all of the stamping products. So today I've demonstrated to you the mist cleaner and the Stampin' Scrub, so you'll want to grab those two items together. I also demonstrated the Stampin' Pierce mat. You might want to add that one to your wish list. And for those of you that have transitioned over with me, that you've already got blocks, you can use the clear blocks that you've already got with the stamps. There's no problem to do that at all. They're acrylic blocks. If you haven't yet invested in blocks, or you might need a different size to what you've already got, or hadn't stocked up on all this different size blocks before Close to My Heart closed down, there is a clear block bundle that you can get a 10% discount on, or you can purchase your blocks individually as you see fit, and you can use them with your Stampin' Up stamps, and also of course the Close to My Heart stamp pads, stamps that you have already invested in. So I hope that you have found today's Technique Tuesday class beneficial, girls. Thank you so much for watching. I will upload this to our Facebook group, and then it will be on my YouTube channel a little bit later on today as well. Have a great week, everyone, and I can't wait to see what you have come up with your creation. Bye for now.